welcome to session 3. I hope everybody is having a great time with my proven methods to enrolling. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes for people to join. I don't want to jump ahead and leave anyone behind. So I hope everybody is having a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day out here in northern Nevada, almost 70 degrees. It's so nice. We had snow on Monday to 70s this week. It's been amazing. So I hope everyone's having a great day also. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today and welcome. I just, again, want to introduce myself in case you're catching this session for the first time. My name is Evelyn Knight. I am the host of the Childcare Business Coach podcast. I am the owner of Childcare Business Professionals, where we help childcare owners and directors find success in their childcare centers. We also help people who are ambitious and want to start a childcare center for the first time. We can help you learn how to start a childcare center. Hi, Karen. So as you join us, pop in and say hello. I love to know who's here. So pop in and say hi in the chat. That would be wonderful. I'm also the owner of a childcare center. It's Zoo and Around Preschool. And I have owned 3 childcare centers in my career. So I am still current. I've been a director. I'm actually still on my license as a director. But this year I actually promoted my assistant of 11 years to director. So she teases me all the time that I teach people how to delegate, but it took me 11 years to delegate to her. So, which it really wasn't the reason I stayed. There was actually more to it than just that. She just likes to tease me about it. But make sure you put questions if you want in the comments. I'll try to answer as I go. And just as a reminder, on Saturday, I'm going to be doing a live training for you guys so that you can get on and ask me questions and we can have more of a conversation. These Facebook Lives are great because you can pop on from your Facebook, but there's no way for you guys to interact with me other than through the chat. So with the Zoom, I want to just give you guys an opportunity to get on and be able to talk to me, be able to talk, so we can have back and forth communication. So that is why I will be doing the Zoom meeting on Saturday instead of coming here on Facebook Live. So tomorrow I will post the link where you guys can meet me on Zoom Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So early for us here on the West Coast, but a little bit later for you guys in the different time zones. But I wanted to I don't want to take too much of your Saturday. I know out here in Nevada, it's going to be 70 degrees. So I know I want to go hiking. So I don't want to take up too much of your Saturday. So that will be doing it as early as I can. Hi, Betsy. Thanks for joining. Okay, so a reminder just to pop in the chat, say hello, send me your questions. If you guys want to send me your questions ahead of time for Saturday's conversation, that would be fantastic. What I'd like to do, I have been getting a few questions, so I'm trying to put a list together of different questions I can ask you guys. So, I just also want to get into this. This session is really important. We are going to be talking about tours today, which really is so important. You guys know, I mean, each section of this is very important. On day 1, I talked about really understanding your program, right? Who are you? Before you can sell a family or parents on your program, you need to know who you are. You need to know who your program is. And you need to be able to know what you're selling them. So that's why it's so important. I also talked to you guys about knowing who your customers are. And yesterday I explained why is that so important, right? Why do I want you to know what kind of car your customers drive? And that is just something we really went into yesterday. And just so you know who you're talking to, you need to know who your customer's base is. The other reason for that too is it'll give you more ideas of where to advertise. So for example, if you're looking for Facebook groups advertising, look at Facebook groups that you know your customer base is going to be on, right? So if you're going on like your local city's single page, you might not have a whole lot of customers on there, right? But if you go on a local moms group, that is somewhere you're going to find customers. So just keep that in mind and know who your customers are. You want to know your audience and who you're talking to. Yesterday, we talked about your online presence. Why is it so important to be online? Why is it so important that we have that strong online connection? We want to be first in that search, right? You want to be, I mean, think about it for yourself. When you're shopping for something, how many people do you call beyond that first couple, right? Our attention span is gone fast. So we need to make sure that we are one of the first ones. And I prefer being the number one first center that pops in on the search. If they call me and they're really happy with how my center answered the telephone, how we conducted ourselves, maybe they won't even call the next center, right? So you want to be number one, okay? And that's something we spoke about yesterday too. This other thing we covered yesterday is the importance of the phone call. And I just cannot stress to you guys how important it is to remember that your first point of contact with families is the phone call. That's the first actual human interaction that they're having with you, usually. Sometimes they'll drop by, but usually it's that phone call. So you want to make sure that that first impression is a good one. You really want to make sure. I can tell you, I was talking to my director today about that after she saw my video yesterday, and we were laughing because not too long ago, we had a parent call and they actually said to us that they weren't even going to bother going to see some of the other centers they called because the people who answered the phone were actually rude. And that just blew me away. Like, how can you be rude to a parent calling to inquire about enrollment, right? So that's just something that, like, it seems like it should be common sense that you should be really polite and nice to people calling to tour your center, especially if you need enrollment. But it's not always common sense. I've discovered as somebody who manages people is not always common. So just keep that in mind. Your phone presence is so very important. So also in our chats throughout the last month, I did mention that I would be giving away a scholarship to my membership. And tomorrow, you guys, I will tell you a lot more about the membership that's coming up. I just really want to focus on some other stuff today, but we will talk about the membership. I've been getting a lot of questions about that, about the cohort that we're starting. I will talk about that tomorrow, I promise. But I will also announce the winner of our scholarship tomorrow. Okay, so I will let you guys know who is winning the scholarship that's going to be a part of our cohort that starts next week, which is just the group for owners that are just trying to make some connections. It's going to be great if you're thinking about starting a childcare center, if you just opened, or even if you have a center, but you just need to get your processes in place and you need some guidance. That's really who I'm trying to help out there. So do you guys have any questions or anything from yesterday or the day before so far? Is everything pretty clear? I hope everybody has their workbooks. I've been emailing and messaging. I've sent over 150 workbooks out. So I hope everybody has them. So if not, make sure that you leave me your email, or if not, I can tell you it's probably because you don't have a link to Messenger. So if a lot of you do not actually have a Messenger link, and I wasn't able to message it. So if you don't have it, just drop your email. Okay, so let's get into it today. Today we are going to talk about why you always want to be tour ready. And just a reminder, you guys, when I'm looking down, I do have my notes here. I want to just stay on track, make sure I don't miss anything for you guys. So I just, every now and then I might be looking down just to make sure I'm on track and I'm not forgetting any of the important points I need to make for you guys. So when you're touring families, right, that is, again, this is going to be probably more than likely your second point of contact with the families. So, and it is the first time that the family is going to be witnessing and actually seeing your program in action. Kashara. Did I say that right? I hope. You did not receive your email. Okay, I will check. If you could just drop your email there for me, I will send it as soon as we're done here. I'll make sure that gets sent out to you. My 16-year-old son is actually helping me with that right now. I've got a lot going on this week, so he's helping me with that. So I will make sure that gets sent out today. I'm actually writing all the emails, and then he's just trying to find everybody for me and get them in there. So keep in mind, tours, it's not something that you can take lightly. Again, you guys have to keep in mind, think about your experience, right? Like, let's think about if you go purchase a car, okay? And let's say you go to a car lot to look, and, you know, let's say you're buying, I don't know, let's say a Subaru Impreza. I mean, something pretty easy, you know, generic car that several different car lots might have. And my oldest son, we bought him an Impreza, so nothing against Imprezas, but they are kind of just everywhere, right? So now let's say you go to this first car lot, and the salesman he doesn't have his stuff together. He's just kind of like, I know I've got the car, where is it? And he's just kind of fumbling. Then they finally bring the car to you. It's dirty. They haven't cleaned it since since they took it in as a trade. It hasn't been cleaned. It's got, like, you know, it smells like cigarette smoke, and then there's still like the garbage. It hasn't been vacuumed. And now let's say you go to another dealership, and they're just on it, and they bring you an Impreza, same car, and it is clean, shiny, ready to go. But let's say it's not quite the color you wanted. Which one are you still going to go with? Are you going to go with that dealership that seemed competent, or the one that didn't really have their stuff together, right? Which, you know, that when you're finally making your decision, which are you going to buy? And the reason I bring that up is because when people choose us, you would be surprised, like, and when we purchase things, right? And remember, I know in this industry, we don't like to think of this as sales, but you are selling your center. Whether we like it or not, we are selling something. And you've got to just keep that in mind. You are selling that spot. They are purchasing that spot for their child. So you have to remember that. But it's important, right, that to also understand that we buy from the people that are selling to us, not so much the product. Think about the last car that you purchased. Did you know that you were going to go? I mean, if you're like me, I did. I knew exactly what car I was going to buy. But my husband's also been in the car industry for years, so it's a little bit different. But think of a product that, well, I guess a better example for me would be my computer. I went in one day for something totally different, wasn't going to buy a new computer, but the salesman was amazing, showed me this fantastic deal, and I bought it right on the spot. Did not plan to spend that kind of money that day or anything. We're buying from the person, not the product, you guys. And that is something to really, really, really understand and know. So many times we end up with something that we never dreamed we were going to purchase, right? Because we made a connection. We liked the salesperson. If you find your absolute dream car, but you can't stand the sales associate, you're probably not going to buy it. You'll go somewhere else. You'll settle for something different, but you're probably not going to buy it. So remember that. You've got to be sure to be conscious of that all the time. And when you're touring, you have to make sure that you put on that your professional persona. You've got to just remember to be professional. It's so incredibly important. You have to look the part, right? So it's also important to make sure that your center is always tour ready, okay? You've got to be tour ready all the time. And to also, just really quick, guys, make sure you have your workbook, because I am going to be going through things right now that has to do with what's in the workbook. So I'm sorry, I should have reminded you guys of that in the beginning, but make sure you do have your workbook. So now back to tours. So before the tour even starts, make sure you're prepared. What are you handing out to your potential customers? What do the documents look like? What do they say? Have you had someone else read it? Even if it's a family member, a friend, make sure there's no typos. Make sure it looks really pretty. there's a wonderful website called Canva. It's canva.com, where you can make some beautiful free flyers. It is absolutely gorgeous. You guys, they make some wonderful, you can make postcards, flyers. If you want to use Canva, they will print and mail it to you, but you don't have to. You can print it, you can download it, print it yourself. One of the things I used to do that was super easy and cheap, you guys, is I used Walgreens photo department. If you make like a postcard on Walgreens, have them print it. And if you Google coupons, you can always find a 50% off coupon for Walgreens photo. So they have fantastic. Hi, Melissa. I just saw your hello. Sorry, it's a little late. So make sure to check out Canva. They are awesome. They will make you beautiful things. The other thing too, when you're making your documents, you can make your letterheads, you can make postcards, all sorts of things on Canva. Make sure to create a business theme. You want everything to look the same. That way, when you hand things out, parents are just going to automatically associate it, right? Because we are going to tomorrow talk a little bit about branding, and I'm going to tell you why that's so important tomorrow, that to create a brand. Okay, so we'll get into that. But so when you're creating this stuff, make sure that it looks the same. If you guys notice on my Facebook page, my virtual assistant is always creating the posts we do. They always kind of look the same. They've got the same color coordination and everything. That's because when you guys see it pop up in your feed, I want you to know it's coming from me, right? You don't need to even see the name. You know by the colors and the font that it's coming from me. That's the kind of thing you want from your customers too. And that's the kind of thing you want for potential clients, that even before they tour, eventually, if you guys follow my plan, eventually, before they even tour, they're going to know your company by what things look like. Okay. And Canva is wonderful for that. And there is a paid portion. It's only $12 a month, but if you do their free portion, it's really nice because it'll actually store your colors and the fonts. So all you have to do every time is go in and pick your colors, pick your fonts. It's an awesome tour. So look at what you're handing out to parents. Make sure it looks clean, it looks professional, and it looks like you put some time and effort into it. Okay. Again, if you have an opportunity to tour your competition, try to get what they're giving out and try to make sure that you're at least matching the quality. And I'm always, you guys, I told you my superpower is quality. So I always make sure that my stuff is just really high quality. The other thing is when you're giving things out like your price list is something that if you're like me, it changes annually. So you're going to want to reprint that. You probably won't send that to a printer to get done. I just print it at my center. I use just like colored paper and print it myself. But you want to make sure the copies are clean, right? Do not print from a photocopied page because it starts to look sloppy. If you ever notice when you've been photocopying the same thing over and over, it starts getting lines through it, gets a little off center, it might be like a little crooked. That just looks totally unprofessional. It looks like you're just pulling it out. It doesn't look like this is something you really put the time and attention into. One of the things is we don't want parents to notice that and if it's done right, they're really not going to notice, right? But what they will notice is when it's sloppy. So that's why, even though sometimes it's like, I put all this effort into something, but nobody's really going to notice. The good thing about it is that when you do call their attention to something like that, it's because it's sloppy, and you don't want to call sloppy attention to something. So just keep that in mind. So make sure your copies are clean. My staff knows I am crazy about this. They will see, like they will come in with my infant daily sheets, for example. And if I see that it looks like, oh, you've definitely been photocopied, I make them just put that in the recycle. We're not using them. We got to start over. It's got to look neat. You're not going to give anything that's going to go to the parents looking sloppy. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you always have the availability, right? And I can tell you guys, like, I know sometimes things are going to happen. You know, sometimes you're going to get so many tours, let's say, and this is an example that happened to me where we ran out of our tour packets. I always have tour packets ready to go. And I also have everything organized, right? Well, anyway, we ran out one day and I went to get them and I was just like, oh, crap, what am I going to do? I don't have any. So what I told the parent was, I just apologized. I said, you know, I am so sorry. I am the owner and my director is out right now. And normally she does these tours. And I just said, you know, she does such an amazing, wonderful job all the time that I don't have to do this so much anymore. So I will get you the information. I'll email it to you. As soon as she gets here, I'll have her email the information to you. So it's just a way that I was able to just kind of manipulate the circumstance so that I didn't look like I didn't have it together, right? So think of ways to manipulate circumstance and be honest. I mean, it is the truth. She usually does it all now. I really don't do that so much anymore. So I'm not like, you know, I wouldn't tell you to make something up, but you've got to figure out a way to tell them what's happening in a positive light. Don't make it look like you're in a frenzy, like you can't figure out like, oh my gosh, I don't know where they are. Oh, you know, just once you start getting in that like panicky mode, people sense that you're chaotic and then it just makes them feel a little bit uncertain. Okay. So just, just find a way to just apologize again. Like I always say, just, you know, apologize and make sure they know that I don't have it right now, but we will absolutely get it to you. So, and put a positive spin on it. That's my suggestion for that. So, have your materials looking fantastic. What I will do in the units section, you guys, I will post for you how I have my tour packets organized. I actually, I have a guideline, right? Everything I have is actually on like my cloud drive on the computer under enrollment. So my assistant director knows that this is where I'm going to go make the, you know, print off the sheets. But I also have a guide for her that's printed out and always ready for her. And she knows that this is exactly what goes in the tour packet in this exact order. And she also knows that this is what goes in the enrollment packet in this exact order. So I actually have it laid out. It's all typed out and in writing, and I will put that in the units portion, which will probably be up for you guys tomorrow, so that you can see exactly the order that we do it in. So the things that we give out, I give out some kind of informational flyer that just talks about our center. It also has the QR code. I told you guys about QR codes yesterday, so if you didn't see yesterday's recording, make sure you watch that so you know what a QR code is and how you can get one for free. But it will have a QR code on it so that parents can scan it easily and go to my website. I also have a QR code for my Facebook page on there. And it does say, like, you know, check out our website, QR code takes them there. Check out our Facebook page, QR code takes them there. So you want to make it easy and simple for them, right? So I just literally give them like a postcard type of flyer. I also give them a price list. The price list I give them has, I have two different types of price lists. If they're just touring, I just give them a price list that gives them like the overview prices. And it also gives them like, what is our registration fee? And it also works as a commercial. It says things like, you know, we have security system all over. We have video cameras in every classroom. We provide breakfast and lunch. So it does have like that advertising bit that I talked to you guys about a little bit on Monday. And that's really all that we give out for the initial tour. I don't let them take too much unless they want to enroll. And that's when I will give them more of a big packet that's in like a professional folder. And also for the tour packet, we do give them our business cards, of course. But so if they're just kind of shopping around and they just kind of think like, I don't know, I don't give them my entire, not everything, not until they commit. I also actually have a sheet too that says if you would like to enroll, it just like, this is how you enroll with us. And, you know, it gives them instructions in writing. So that postcard I'm giving them with my QR code is going to get them to the social media, which they've probably already seen my website. But if they want more information, and my website goes in really into depth about my program. So it is very, very detailed. So that what they really need is probably there. So being tour ready, make sure you have your packets, make sure you're ready, make sure you know what you're going to say, right? And with the tours, I do suggest creating a loose script. I don't really have a script anymore. We've been doing it so long. My assistant director's been with me for 11, actually my director and assistant we've been together for 11 years. So I really don't need a script for the tours anymore, but we did have one at one point. When I was training them on how to do tours, they did have a script, but it's more bullet points that they have to follow. It isn't actually like something that they have to read. It's more something like a checklist that I had them memorize to make sure that they're hitting all these points. Because with a tour, you're trying to gain trust. You are trying to build a really quick 15-minute relationship. So you need to know that you're hitting all these points, but you also need to be authentic and sincere. And if you listen to my podcast or you've taken these other units, you're going to hear me say that so much over and over again. I'm going to tell you guys authenticity and sincerity. Those are just so key, right? So that's why I'm sorry, Sue's asking a question. Have you given out your website? We'd love to check it out. My website is zooingaround.net, and I will put that in the show notes, I'm in podcast mode. I'll put it in the comments, okay? The Zoon, it's ZOON as in Nancy, around.net. And so that is something you guys, like, I wouldn't recommend having like a memorized script because that actually takes that authenticity out of it. But you do want to make sure that your staff, whoever is doing the tour, is following certain points you want to hit on, right? Every single tour, no matter what. So just keep that in mind. Like that scripts, phone is a little bit different because people aren't seeing you looking at a piece of paper so much as like in a tour. You can't just like, oh, let me get my script. I got to make sure, you don't want like a checklist. It's got to be natural. It needs to be coming in. And after a while, whoever's doing your tours, if it's you or if it's your assistant or whoever, by the time they are done, it will, they'll have it down. It doesn't take very long to get it down pat. So don't worry about that so much. So the other thing in regards to being tour ready is you need to make sure your classrooms are always tour ready. And I want to make sure that you guys understand, I'm not saying that you don't want the children to play. You absolutely, play is huge. You want them to play. Your classrooms might be a mess. So if you notice in the workbook I gave you guys, one of the questions I actually put on there is, what is the difference between being messy and dirty? Does anyone have a guess what I mean about that? Like, why did I put that in there? Or what do I mean by that? Why is that important? If you do, just leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think, but I will explain it. So it's something I really train my staff on. And when I get new staff who have experience, it's something I find that I really have to train them. I kind of almost have to reset their thinking, because really high quality centers are going to be play based, and they're usually like child led. So the children get to make a lot of choices, right? So you're going to have a mess. If toddlers, you guys know they love to dump out all the baskets, right? So, and I have a whole other training on that, guys, on how to control that. But I'm not going to get into that today on how you can make sure it's not like huge, Legos everywhere. But what I mean when I say the difference between a messy and clean is your floors need to be swept. They absolutely need to be mopped. They absolutely, everything needs to be clean and sanitized. And you guys, I'm sorry, my puppy is super smart and she just broke into my office. This is my puppy. She's going to say hello. And I'm going to have my son come and get her because she knows how to open doors. So super smart. My little puppy actually just opened my office door and ran in. So, yes, Sue, messy is toys, evidence of play. Messy is good. It means the children are interacting and they're happy. And here's my puppy again. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm going to call my son to get her. Ronan! So, messy is good. Absolutely. Dirty, absolutely, Sue, is food, dirty diapers. It's dust. It's making sure all the dust. I'm sorry, Ron. She broke in. And she knows. I'm sorry, guys. I promised myself that I would never have a puppy again, and I ended up rescuing a little poodle puppy. So sorry about that, but she's super smart. She actually learned how to open doors. She knows how to use the doorknob and actually open the door. So thank you, ladies. Okay, so back to messy versus clean. So yes, making sure your surfaces are dusted, making sure the floors are mopped, making sure there's no dust anywhere. And I'll tell you a story about my husband came to tour, like, and he's not at my center very often. And this happened a couple of years ago. But he was walking around and he walks over to one of the fire extinguisher holders, you know, those big boxes that hold the fire extinguishers. And he just kind of put his finger over it and he's holding up his fingers to me. He's like, what is this? And there was dust on. I'm like, it's the fire extinguisher box. Who cares? And he's like, I care. People who tour the center are going to care. If I noticed it, they're going to notice it. And it really was just like, oh, wow, you're right. And so what I'm going to caution you guys is when we're at our centers, we stop seeing things. We are there every single day. So we stop seeing things, right? So I am going to challenge you to start walking around your center looking for things. I want you to look at the top of your curtains, look at your ceilings for the dust or the cobwebs, on top of things like your fire extinguisher. Another big one is the emergency lights, like the emergency lights that for the back door and whatnot, right? The fire lights. That's where cobwebs start to form. So after that, it really made me super self-conscious and aware. I even look in my light fixtures to make sure there's no dead bugs in them. The other one I see a lot are the vents, where your heater vents come out, especially if you have the ones in the ceiling. They just get so caked with dust. We stop seeing that stuff, but your parents, they don't. Tours are going to see it. So make sure that is what I tell you, to make sure your center is tour ready. That's what I mean. Making sure it's tour ready is checking all that stuff out, making sure all the time. Look for residue on the walls, things like that, right? And messy, the toys might be everywhere. You might have every basket in the classroom dumped out and spread out. That is okay. The children are playing, they're engaged, but you can't have dust. You can't have spilt milk on the ground. Okay, so that's what I mean. And also watch for clutter. One of the things, and I'm sure all of you guys, if you have this problem with your teachers, you know, give me a yes or an amen in the comments, whatever. But they love to clutter the cubbies. And it's a pet peeve of mine where you'll go into a classroom and on the cubbies is just all the art projects they're trying to work on. It's like all the supplies for the art projects, or this is piled on there and that's piled on there. And so just try to minimize that too. Like, you know, try to keep them, especially because I know for my classrooms, the first thing you walk into are the cubbies, right? So if the first thing the parent walks into is just a cluttered mess, what is that making them feel? So when you walk into a classroom, think about how it makes you feel, right? And even though we don't consciously think about that, it is something you want to think about. So what I want you to really think about also is when you walk into Walmart or Costco, what does that feel like? That can just feel totally overwhelming, right? Or it just, I don't know, it's not quite the same as if you walk into like, let's say Kohl's or Macy's, where it's just kind of a more relaxed atmosphere, or even if you walk into your spa, right? Think about the difference of what it makes you feel. And that's what you want to walk. I challenge you tomorrow to go walk through your classrooms. Have your assistant director or have your director or whoever walk through your classrooms and just gauge your feeling. And remember, the parents are feeling that too. So when you're doing that, you're also going to be looking for the dust bunnies and you're going to look for cobwebs. So those are the things. And, you know, just that stuff along the ceiling that we never have to mess with. It just escapes us. So I can guarantee you guys, I just put that in your brain and now you're going to be walking, looking at your classrooms in a totally different light, which is great though, because if you do it this way, you will always be tour ready. Yes, Melissa's, yes, less is more sometimes. So one of these days, I'm going to tour my center for you guys. I think I'll go in on a weekend when there's no children there, because you would be amazed. Like, as I'm speaking, how much furniture and supplies I have in my classrooms, it will blow your mind to hear me speak like this. But it's kind of, but it's very organized. So it's just kind of, it's a concept, and it takes years to learn how to pull it off. One of the things I'm going to just add, which is a totally different training, but the last thing I want to see you guys do is just start removing furniture and toys from your classroom, because it's so important to have all of that. So I'm just going to, another thing to really think about, and this is just quality-wise for your children, and how I train my teachers on classroom, like how to organize and whatnot, is get on your knees or sit on one of the little chairs and look at the classroom from the child's perspective. What you should be seeing is a bunch of small little rooms within your one big room. That's how it should feel, and that's how it should seem, right? And when you can accomplish that, you will be amazed at how your behavior issues will just diminish, right? So like my average classroom does have 9 to 11 centers. Okay, we have literally 9 to 11 different centers per classroom, like dramatic play, science, home living, and each one only will take about 4 to 5 children, right? And some of them only take 1 or 2. But the way we have it arranged is it's like having all these little rooms within one big room. And some of my classrooms are huge, you guys, but which is, you know, that can be very difficult. So just keep that in mind. That and when you're touring, explain that to parents. It is something I absolutely explain to them. And I recommend explaining that in the tour, because you want to let them know, because sometimes it might, especially if they are playing and there's just stuff everywhere, point it out to them. I absolutely tell them, like, you know, it looks like, but this is what's really going on here. So that actually leads me to my next point on the tour. So now with being tour ready, right? Just how do you talk to parents about it? How do you present it to the parents? And one of the things that I realized years ago is when you're touring parents, you have about 15 minutes to educate them on what you're trying to accomplish, why it's best practices. And for me, I have 15 minutes to educate them on what is developmentally appropriate, what is play-based, why does it look like this. So keep that in mind. So when you walk into your classroom, if there is everything just everywhere and the kids are just having a blast, like actually today it happened to me. I was touring. It was actually I had a insurance audit, so I was actually touring the insurance auditor, and she walked in and they were playing with Play-Doh, and then they were doing they had a water table going over here, and it does. I mean, sometimes it can look like absolute chaos, right? And there was just toys everywhere, and so I explained to her, I was like, look at how these children are learning. These children are engaged in sensory play. And then I love Play-Doh. Just if I'm doing a tour anytime, Play-Doh is my favorite thing that children are doing, because the way I explain Play-Doh to parents and to anyone touring, I let them know that when a child is playing with Play-Doh, there is so much learning happening. Not only are they refining the fine motor skills that they need in order to get those muscles honed in so that they learn how to hold a pencil and a pen and how to write in the future, but they're also learning how different things work. So they're learning science. One of the things my center, we make Play-Doh every week. So by making Play-Doh, the children are learning that when you take this dry element and mix it with this wet, the water with the flour, right? Combining it makes an entirely new element. So now they've just learned science. While we're also making the Play-Doh, we're teaching the children math, because they are actually putting the measurements in, and they're counting how many cups of water, and we actually put the different cups out, and they know what a real half looks like. And I explain to them that that is how people really learn. By showing them a flashcard and saying, this is the number 3, they're not learning what a number 3 is. But if I have 3 cups of water lined up, and they're pouring 1, 2, 3. Now they have concrete knowledge of what the number 3 actually means and really is. And I also explain to them that, we can teach them literacy, because we bring out the letter mats, and now they're forming letters with the Play-Doh, which is helping them to really memorize what the letter A is. And then we're going to talk to them about, like, if their name is Amber, like, oh, look, A is for Amber, or even their friend, right? If their friend's name is, like, our friend Amber's name starts with A, and let's make a Play-Doh A. So Play-Doh is one of my favorite, and you can do that with any activity, that you've got to figure out, like, how am I going to educate these parents on why something that seems as simple as Play-Doh, right? How many of us even realize that children are learning so much by playing with Play-Doh, right? And I also point out something like there are over 45 muscles being used when a child is playing with Play-Doh that also need to be used in order for a child to learn how to write. So when you think about explaining it like that, right? So then parents are like, wow, I had no idea Play-Doh is so important. I'm glad you guys play with Play-Doh. And so those are the kind of things I do in a tour. I walk into the classrooms, and specifically the classroom that the child is going to be enrolled in, I find something the children are doing in there, and we usually have 5 or 6 different activities going on, but I zero in on one, and I really point out what the learning that is happening in that activity. I go in depth, just like I told you guys with the Play-Doh. So even if they're just in the library reading, I explain to them that, if there's no adult reading to them, but they're just kind of turning the pages and reading to themselves, and even if they're 2 and they can't read, I explain to the parents something like, even though they can't read the words, this is how pre-literacy starts, because they're learning that the pages go from here to here. They're also learning how to tell stories through the pictures. So they're using their imagination, they're growing their reasoning skills, their problem solving. Plus, this is pre-literacy by understanding how a book works. So there's so many different ways that you can manipulate what they're doing, and you just are telling them that what's really happening, right? We're explaining to the parent what's really happening, but we're educating them really fast. In 15 minutes, you're educating them on what is developmentally appropriate, why are they learning through all this, and I also explain to them why there's a mess, and I point out to them. You'll notice that my centers are totally sanitized. We sanitize everything twice a day, and I'll point out how clean it is, but we believe that children learn best through play, therefore they have freedom, and my teachers are also trained to walk around and facilitate the learning as the children play. So don't be afraid to point things out like that to the parents, okay? And the other thing is, make sure your teachers are tour ready too. One of the things I've noticed, teachers they clam up and they get really, really nervous when a tour comes in. But shyness and nervousness can come up as seeming rude and standoffish. So make sure that you just tell your teachers, have a routine with them. Come up with some kind of routine. So one of the things I tell my teachers is, just come over and introduce yourself and show them your parent board. Every one of my classrooms has a parent board. That's all they need to do. They just have to be friendly. I will do the rest. I just want to make sure at least one teacher is coming up, introducing themselves, and just saying, oh, if you have any questions, let me know, anything like that, right? You just want to make sure your teachers are ready. So if you get them mentally prepared, it really does help. So that's another part of being tour ready, and also just in the middle of the tour. Um, the other thing too is you are trying to make connections, right? So hopefully you already got their name through the phone call. Make sure to use their name. Make sure to use the child's name. And if you do use whatever techniques, I'm horrible with names, you guys, so I constantly have to use techniques in my mind to remember their names. So make sure that you do that also. And show off your program. I take them to every classroom and show them like this, I'm proud of my center. This is what it is, and I really show off my program. I just really, that's when I want you guys to brag. Take those superpowers that I help you guys discover on Monday and really brag about your center. It is super important to not be afraid to brag. Also tell them a little bit about you. I always try to bring in like my kids into the conversation, like, oh yeah, I started childcare because I didn't want to leave my son when he was older, and my first degree is actually in something totally unrelated to early childhood, but I kind of redid everything because I wanted to be with my son, and here I am. My son's now in college and I'm still doing this because I love children. So make it personal. Let them get to know you a little bit, because people really, if once you build that trust and they feel like they know you, they are so much more likely to register their child with you. It makes them feel safe, right? So just like yesterday I told you guys, when you're introducing yourself to parents at the store, it's those personal connections. Personal connections are so very important when we're trying to enroll children in our center. So when you're touring, that is so, so very important. Do you guys have any questions so far? Is that all making sense? Did I miss? And if I miss any questions, I am going through the comments. I will deal with them on Saturday if I do miss anything as the comments are coming in. And let me just look to make sure really quick that I got everything covered. So yeah, just making sure that your handouts look great, you're connecting with families, making sure that you're clean, and really I'm going to challenge you guys tomorrow also. Walk around your centers. It's something that it's kind of a challenge if you're not ready for this, that whole concept of going around your classrooms and making sure that you can point something out that's a learning experience, right? No matter what time of the day it is, just kind of walk around tomorrow and think about that. While you're inspecting your centers, while you're doing the other things, just look at what the children are doing. How would you explain something that's happening in the classroom, in each one of your classrooms, as a learning experience? How is this enriching the child's life? And remember, the domains you're going to be looking at for the age groups that we deal with are social, emotional, math, science, literacy. Those are really the big ones that parents are going to want to hear about. I do educate parents all the time too on social emotional being the most important thing. As you guys know, my background is in neuropsychology. That's what I have my master's degree in. So I really just, that is where their brain development is. So I really, really stress that, how important that is. Even in the tour, I go over. So don't underestimate the importance of those social emotional. I know in the ECE world, we are so focused on social emotional, but that is just educate the parents on why. Why is that so important? That is pretty much the key to, our future success as adults. So, and you guys, if you don't know, I'm sure I have a podcast episode about that. That is my biggest passion. Why I do ECE is those foundational brain development pieces. And I'm sure there's an episode on my podcast about that if you don't know why. And think of how can you educate your families that you're touring in 15 minutes on why your center is the best choice for them. Keep in mind, they're probably touring other centers. So you need to think outside the box and remember, the things I've told you about, like if you are going to purchase something, what are the things that stand out to you? How is it going to look? How is it going to feel? How is it going to smell, right? Even when we walk into Walmart versus, let's say, I don't know if you guys have Sprouts or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, right? Even the feel of those and the smell of those, how does that feel? So those are the kind of things you really want to, that first impression when they walk in your building, really think about all that stuff and don't underestimate it. So it's super important. Just creating that feeling is so important. So that is what I have for you guys today. And tomorrow's session, you guys, is really, really, really important. It is about follow-up and branding. And I will tell you guys, follow-up is what will absolutely set you apart in your area. 80% of centers do no kind of follow. They don't actually gather any information, let alone do follow-up. And only 5% of centers that actually gather information from customers do any kind of follow-up. So I know it seems like, well, I need to enroll these people now. I will explain to you why tomorrow it is so important to gather that information and why follow-up is so, so important. And I will go over a follow-up plan with you guys and how to create a plan. My current follow-up plan is 5 years. I actually follow up with families for 5 years. And I know that seems extensive, but you know, just because I have a wait list right now does not mean I'm going to have a wait list in 2 years. So just keep that in mind. Our children outgrow us. So you always have to be thinking in terms of the future. You cannot rely on what your center has today. So I will go over tomorrow, like once you get your phone ringing, once you get the tours happening, once you fill up your center, how are we going to ensure that you keep your center full after that? That is even bigger, more important, and more key to your success than enrolling. So I guarantee that. And the last thing today I'm just going to leave you with is I wanted to just also mention a little bit on like why I do this for everybody. You know, I was thinking about this earlier today, and all of us at one point had a dream, right? We all dreamt of being a director, an owner. Sometimes we didn't, but I mean, at some point when we decided to take these jobs on, we wanted to make a difference. We wanted to just be something bigger, right? And give something back to these children that is bigger than what we were doing. But this job can be so incredibly stressful that when you're in the thick of it and when you've been doing it for a long time, it can steal that love and that passion from you. It can take what you fell in love with about early childhood education and almost turn it into something that you just wish you never came to, you know. And you guys, I've been there. I know what that feels like. And if I've told the story on in my podcast, but at one point in my career years ago, I just I didn't want to do it anymore. And I owned a couple centers at the time. I was newly diagnosed with a neurological disease, and I was really having a hard time. It was before I was, when I first got diagnosed, they didn't know what was wrong with me. I wasn't quite stabilized yet. And I had gone to my center that is in a neighboring town about an hour away. I was really struggling there. I drove to my local center that I still own today, and I sat in my parking lot and I literally just started crying and praying. And I just told God, I'm like, God, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to own a center. This is just too much for me. If this is what you've called me to do, if this is really what you want me to do, you really need to show me something right now, because I can't do this anymore. And that was the day everything really changed for me and why I do this for you guys. I walked into my center and I just felt defeated. I felt like I was done with this industry. I just kept telling myself, with my degrees, I could be making $200,000 just working for somebody else. Why am I doing this? And I just kept thinking that. And I literally, you guys, true story, I literally went from praying in my car and just taking a deep breath. Okay, God, I'm going to go in there. You need to show me. Is this what you called me to do? Went into my center, walked into my office, put my purse down. And one of my teachers, who still works for me today, she's been with me for since my first center. She's moved with me from one center to another. She came to me and brought me this baby, and she handed me this little baby. And I'm sorry, I always get a little teary with the story, but she said, I just wanted to remind you why we're here. And she told me this baby was actually from Las Vegas, and her mother abandoned her in the hospital, and she was put up for foster care, but she is a meth baby and nobody would take her. But since we do not charge foster families a copay, a foster parent here in our area was able to take this baby in. Without us, this baby would have nowhere, she would still be living in the hospital without a family. That little baby is now, gosh, probably about 7 years old, and she was adopted by that family. And I knew that day that God was telling me, this is where I brought you. You have a purpose. And they brought, that baby, literally, you guys, I kid you not, it wasn't even 2 minutes later from being in the car to my teacher bringing me that baby, handing me that baby and telling me, this is why you're here. You're here to give these babies, these children, a chance. And I've got countless other children that we've helped in that way. But, that's why I'm doing this. I just want to make sure that if you're in that position, if you feel that overwhelm, I've been there, I've done that, and I have found my way out. I know how to have a successful center now. I know how to bring that joy back, the passion and the love. And, now I really want to help other owners do the same thing. I want them to not feel that way like I felt that, that day and how I was feeling during that season of my life. You don't have to. It's just a matter of knowing how to run the business. And that was the point that I hired my business coach. That was actually when I decided, okay, this is what I was meant to do. I'm all in. I'm going to do it right. I hired a business coach. She taught me how to be a business owner. And so now I'm hoping I can do the same for those of you out there. But that is really why I've been asked, even my friends and family right now are asking me, why do you do this? You give out so much free information. I don't understand. And that is why. I just want to make sure I'm giving people that information. I know how that feels to just feel hopeless and just almost hate your center because it feels like a noose around your neck, And so I just want to help other owners be in love with their centers again. And I just absolutely, I know it can happen. You don't have to feel like your center is this anchor just really pulling you down. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that and let you know why. It's kind of funny, just people in my personal life would just keep asking me, why are you doing this after seeing me do these videos? So that was just it. So I hope everybody has a wonderful night, and I will be here again tomorrow at 4 p.m. and we will talk then. Good night, everybody.